Georgetown is one of those iconic neighborhoods that filmmakers love to shoot for their movies. Remember this from St. Elmo's Fire? Or maybe you're more of an Exorcist person. And there's a reason for this. Georgetown is beautiful, it's charming, it's exquisite, cobblestone streets, the water's right next to it. So today we're going to go through the pros and the cons of living in Georgetown. So let's dive right in. So first let's start with the location. Georgetown is located next to the Potomac River and is centered around the intersections of M Street and Wisconsin Avenue. It's about 2.5 miles northwest of the nation's capital. Georgetown was formally established in 1751, over 60 acres of land, and was named after King George II. And its history is reflected in its architecture. Mostly you'll find federal style or Georgian style homes, cobblestone streets, mostly row houses, but there are some detached homes as well. The old stone house at 3051 M Street is the oldest intact house. It was built in 1765 for Christopher Lehman. It is owned by the National Park Service and is open to the public. Behind M Street is the C&O Canal, which runs through Georgetown. And don't forget, it borders the Potomac River. So you've got restaurants all along the river that are just exquisite. This leads me right into my next pro about living in Georgetown. There are so many things to do. Let's start with parks and recreation. So as I mentioned, Georgetown is on the Potomac River. One of my favorite things to do in the summer is go down to the waterfront in Georgetown and rent a stand-up paddleboard or a kayak, and you can go around the Potomac River, go around the border of Georgetown, you can see the Kennedy Center, go under the bridges. It is so much fun. The Georgetown Waterfront Park, which was finished in 2011, stretches along the Potomac River and links 225 miles of parkland. There are labyrinths that date back to ancient times. There are fountains that the kids love to run and play in. There are rain gardens and tons of walking paths all in around the park and walking along the canal. There's also Montrose Park, which has a great playground for the kids, and Dumbarton Oaks. Dumbarton Oaks is an oasis within the city. You can explore 16 acres of terraced gardens, wooden walkways, even have a museum there that is home to a world-class collection of Byzantine and pre-Columbian art. You can make a day of it alone just exploring Dumbarton Oaks. Which takes me to my next pro about living in Georgetown. It is definitely very culturally rich. It has 16 museums and just as many art galleries. And for you history buffs, you've got to visit Tudor Place. This family home was built in 1805 by George Washington and now is a National Historic Landmark. It sits on 5.5 acres of land, so you can tour the insides of the house as well as all the gardens. There are hourly tours. They'll tell you all about the history and the many works of art that you'll find inside. You'll find over 15,000 different works of art and historic items. In fact, it's the second largest Washington collection after Mount Vernon. And if you're a foodie, you will not be disappointed in Georgetown. There is a plethora of restaurants of all shapes and sizes, all different price points, some on the waterfront, some in back alleys. One of my favorites is Martin's Tavern. It's been there forever. They have the best brunch. You gotta go check it out. Fun fact, there is a booth at Martin's Tavern that has a plaque that commemorates where John Kennedy proposed to Jackie. One of my other favorite restaurants is Cafe Milano, where Patrick Ewing and Denzel Washington are frequent visitors. And I'm going to put links below of everything I've said so far. Another thing you've got to do in Georgetown after you've had a fabulous meal at one of their great restaurants is head right over to the Kennedy Center. It's just around the corner, and you can see it if you're dining in one of the waterfront restaurants in Georgetown. And before I get on to my next pro, and then I am going to get into the cons, and don't worry, there are definitely some cons living in Georgetown. But before I go there, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of my all-time favorites from growing up here, which is Blues Alley. This jazz club was formed in the 1950s and is styled after the speakeasies of the 1920s. You can eat there and you can listen to some of the most iconic blues and jazz musicians, and it's something that is unique to Georgetown, and you really have got to check this out. My next pro about living in Georgetown is its shopping. Georgetown hosts over 590 shops, which are all over, mostly on Wisconsin and M Street, but you'll find everything you can possibly imagine, including grocery stores, clothes stores, upscale, everyday living. You can find it all in Georgetown, which just bleeds over to my next pro, which is it's walkability. Georgetown has a fabulous walkability score of 97 due to all these shops and restaurants, and has a bike score of 79. And if you're not into walking and biking and all this outdoor activities, Georgetown's got a great neighborhood library, where not only they have all the kinds of books, but they have gaming nights and conversation groups, and it's a great place to meet new people. So I think you get the gist of it. Georgetown is just a fabulous place to live. It's got that neighborhood feel between all the libraries and the museums and the galleries and the things to do and the restaurants. But there is a downside to living in Georgetown, and there are a lot of cons to it. So let's just get right to the cons. One of the things that you're gonna have to get used to if you're gonna live in Georgetown is the constant influx of tourists. It's true, there's tourists all the time, all year round in Georgetown, which makes it pretty crowded. So whether you're trying just to get to your local shops or grocery or anything you're trying to do during the day, it's gonna be crowded because there's going to be tourists around you. And this just really does annoy the residents of Georgetown. And guess what? There's no metro in Georgetown. There's metros to the south and Foggy Bottom to the north, but there are no metro stops in Georgetown itself, which is a problem because where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna park? Without a metro in Georgetown, parking is a big problem because everybody is driving there. There are buses, don't get me wrong, and there are really nice circular bus routes, but there's no metro, and it's a big con. I'm sure you're gonna guess my next con, because with no metro and all these tourists and all this parking, you can only imagine how bad the traffic is. It's really bad. Traffic in Georgetown, no matter what time of day, I don't care if it's rush hour or not rush hour, the traffic in Georgetown is really bad. Another major con of living in Georgetown is the cost of living. Georgetown is really expensive. There's no other way to say it. Georgetown is 45% higher than the Washington D.C. average and 121% higher than the national average. Georgetown's housing is 365% higher than the national average, with the average median household value at about 1.1 million. And honestly, I think it's higher than that. General sales tax is 13% higher than the national average, and the state income tax is 62% higher than the national average. Expensive to live in Georgetown, much more expensive than other parts of DC. There are some other cons to living in Georgetown that are specific to DC, but I'll let you watch this video on the pros and cons of DC, and that'll fill you in on the rest of them. Georgetown is a great place to live. Niche.com ranks Georgetown number 15 out of 118 on the best neighborhoods to live in DC, 21 out of 118 on the best neighborhoods to raise a family in Washington, D.C., and 44 out of 118 on the best neighborhoods for young professionals in Washington, D.C. If you want to learn more about living in D.C., check out these videos I've made on the pros and cons of D.C. and real stuff you must know before you move to the DMV. I am a licensed realtor in D.C. and Maryland, so if you're thinking about moving to Georgetown or anywhere in D.C. or Maryland, my team and I would love to help you. Call, email, text, all my information is below. Morning, noon, and night, we've got your back. And if you like this video, please subscribe and tell your friends. I do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Bye.